SportsLit is co-founded and co-hosted by Neil Acharya and Nate Sager. Technical producer and engineer, Michael Ella. Executive producer, Neil Acharya. Welcome to SportsLit. I'm Neil Acharya, and today our guest is Stanley Cup winning head coach, Mike Keenan. We'll discuss Iron Mike, My Life Behind the Bench, with Scott Morrison. The book was published by Penguin Random House Canada and released on October 1st, 2024. Mike Keenan, Iron Mike, a hockey coach known as much for his success as he is for the calamity that came with it, everywhere he went. His resume is stellar, his methods often questioned. Let's start with that resume. 3 Stanley Cup Finals appearances in his first 8 NHL seasons, twice with the Philadelphia Flyers in 1985 and 1987, and again with the Chicago Blackhawks in 1992. Wayne Gretzky and the Edmonton Oilers did him in the first 2 times, Mario Lemieux and the Pittsburgh Penguins the third. The 2 best players in the world at the time, leading 2 powerhouse teams past Mike Keenan, who was 1 step away. When he had the chance to have them both on his team, he won the Canada Cup in 1987 against the Soviets, a tournament he won again in 1991. Mike Keenan did reach the summit in 1994, winning the Stanley Cup with the New York Rangers, something that Rangers fans painfully knew had not been done in 54 years. He also went on to win the KHL title in 2014, becoming the first head coach to win the championship in both leagues. Now, as for those methods, during his time with the St. Louis Blues, he benched Dale Hawerchuk, a player he had a long connection with. And at that point in 1995, Hawerchuk had played 5 previous seasons with Buffalo. And his family, including his sick grandmother, had crossed the border to see him play. But he wasn't playing up to Mike's standard in St. Louis. So for Dale, that night at the Odd, no dice for any ice. Okay, mind games. Those were well documented too. Did he really tell Ron Sutter he would bench his teammate and twin brother Rich if Ron didn't play better? True story. And there were battles with stars. Denny Savard, Doug Wilson in Chicago, Brett Hull in St. Louis. Power struggles with management and ownership. Ed Snyder and Bob Clark in Philadelphia. Bob Pulford again in Chicago. And most famously, Neil Smith, his GM in New York. Keenan, now 71, was born in Bowmanville, Ontario, and grew up in Whitby, Ontario. And he started his ascent as a player in the same region with Oshawa, just next door. Later, he played U.S. college hockey and returned to his home region to skate again in senior hockey. He then had the foresight to make the transition from player to coach. Prior to the NHL, he won the OHL championship with the Peterborough Petes in 1980, the AHL's Calder Cup with the Rochester Americans in 1983, and then the next year, he won the Canadian University title with the U of T Varsity Blues. And it all started for him as a high school coach at Forest Hill Collegiate in Toronto, where he was a teacher. In all, Mike Keenan coached 1,386 NHL games for 8 teams from 1984 to 2009. Iron Mike is our guest today. Welcome back to SportsLit, and pleased to be joined by Mike Keenan. Mike, the book is being released on October 1st, Iron Mike, aptly named. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it very much.
Well, as I said, we'll get right into the questions. And I think I know the answer to this, but I'll ask you, why now? Why right now for the release of this book?
I think it was just timely in terms of how the process went for us to even produce the book. Jay Greenberg, God bless him, started the program with me, and he passed. of all things, West Nile disease.
Mm-hmm.
So fortunately, a Hall of Fame writer as well, Scott Morrison, picked it up. So it took us over 2 years to complete because of that interruption of a really tragic situation. So the timing of it now is that the hockey season's beginning. The publisher thought that would be timely if we could get it done by at this time in September, early October. So that's the genesis of how this production came about.
So generally in sports book publishing, you're either approached or, some of the time the subject, in this case, you will approach the publisher. But I'm imagining you've been approached a lot of times, given the history you have with the game and everything you've done in the game. So can you explain that process?
Yes, I was approached by Penguin to try to have me write a book, and I hesitated and procrastinated, and finally they were persuasive enough for me to take the challenge on. And of course, I just explained the hurdles we had to overcome with the passing of Jay Greenberg. So. Mm-hmm. They initiated the conversation and evolved from there, and now here we are. The book's produced.
I'm imagining, and because this is a sports book podcast, a lot of the questions will be about this side of things. You probably won't get as many of those everywhere else you go to talk about Iron Mike. But you've understood the business of sport throughout your career, especially in the pros. What's the business of doing a sports book? How is that, the agents involved, the financial negotiations? What makes it worth it for you to do it now?
Well, it's not a big project in terms of finances. Peter Chin, who is my lawyer in this case, acted on behalf of myself and Scott and negotiated a deal. And the process is pretty straightforward. They want to do it audio as well as in the written copy. And at the same time, the conversation is between Scott and I. Every time he would ask me a question, it would trigger some kind of memory in terms of the situation we're talking about. But since I've written the book, I've been in occasions with former players, and they said, "What about this? Did you put it in the book?" I said, "Oh my God, I forgot all about it." So the book is 350 pages, and I probably could have written another 350 pages. So
right,
trying to be selective, and at the same time, you're not going to recall everything that happened in your life over that, particularly in the coaching scene over 5 decades. So. We captured most of it and a lot of it, and hopefully that'll be interesting enough for people to engage and read about what transpired in many situations.
Yeah, and I think what's particularly interesting about this is given your career and given where you coached and the major events, whether it's Canada Cups or coaching the Rangers in 94 to their first cup, I believe, in 54 years, your time with Chicago, your time with the Flyers, 2 cups against the Oilers. I think there's so much in front of the camera and also behind the scenes. I mean, it was explosive, right, Mike? Can we agree that your time behind the bench, especially in the first 4 stops, when we stop at St. Louis, pretty explosive?
I would agree with you. And somebody asked me, how'd you feel about writing? I said, I got dizzy writing it. So there's so many stops, so many different teams, successful teams, failures, and different countries, including North America and then Russia, China, and Italy. So it's expansive in terms of a career, and I think that we tried to capture as much as we could about all the situations that evolved in different cities in different countries.
How did the tone change? I emailed Scott Morrison. He's been a guest on our show a couple times. How did how did the process change? Like, how far along did you get with Jay? Because Scott mentioned he was working as an editor already, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Scott was actually. And
right.
So he was very familiar, and then Scott had to rewrite the book. So that took time, and he had the discipline to be able to do it, but also he was involved in the book from the beginning, so he knew the direction we were trying to take.
I imagine too, the publisher probably would have wanted to get this out. It's technically the 30th anniversary, even though it just happened last June for the Cup, right? So the publishers always love a nice clean number. So 30 years, I'm sure they would have loved to have gotten it out either at this time last year or now, because the fall is always book season per se.
Yeah, it is. And we just celebrated our 30th reunion in New York this past weekend. And, a lot of memorable moments were discussed and brought up by the team. But it was timely and is timely because we're starting the hockey season. And it's sort of is seamless in terms of introducing the book now. Hockey season's beginning, and then, of course, you've got the lead up to both Canadian and American Thanksgiving and then Christmas. So it's part of, I think, timely in terms of the publisher and what they presented as far as trying to get this book done at this time.
Is there, and I was looking through it too, and it was revisiting essentially, the first Stanley Cup I really remember watching, I could probably say was 86 Montreal Calgary, but really it was 87. That, like, oh, what a run. What a great Cup final. And I wanted to know, essentially, for me, there was a lot of revisiting things that I hadn't kind of paid attention to in a long time, whether it was your time in St. Louis. The New York stuff is kind of top of mind for me. Chicago a little bit, but what happened in Philly as well. Do you feel there's a lot of new information in this book that people would not know about? And I'll preface that by saying, I went back and looked at how it ended in New York and kind of the bonus, and then you give your perspective on that. Kind of, if I'm reading this right, and you can correct me, is that you and Neil agreed that this check would come late, and it kind of gave you both an out.
Actually, it wasn't me. It was Rob Campbell.
Right.
And I wasn't privy to that conversation. Neil flew to Toronto to discuss my departure. And I was very upset about it. I wanted to stay. I thought we had a chance to win again, but it got to a point, and we won't expose it all right now because it's in the book. But that discussion was between Neil and Rob in terms of the bonus that was supposed to be paid by a certain time, and Neil never told his superiors, and so we'll let the people read it in the book. But the question you asked me initially, is there a lot in there that people don't know? And that the answer is yes. There's a lot of backstories that people have never heard about or don't know about.
Yeah, and I like where your head's at on this, because you're thinking business right now. And hey, let's not give it all away, because there's a really interesting kitchen table conversation with Mike Ilitch and you.
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, and it's funny because when you read these things, you read them, especially after the fact, 30 years, and you're like, oh, I'm wondering, was that known at the time? So what I did last night is I went to the Toronto Reference Library and I brought out a book I read many years ago. I'm going to say 2009, and it was by a guy named Barry Mizell, and it was called Losing the Edge. And you may have heard of it.
I know Barry, yeah.
Yeah, and the book was really intensive on that whole run and your relationship with Neil. And I'm going to just read you, because we're talking about it. Barry, this is on the inside jacket of the book.
Okay.
And I'm going to read to you what he said, and I just got to bring it up. So bear with me for a second.
Yeah, not a problem.
And you tell me what you think when I read this, okay?
Okay.
Keenan's pit bull style was based in an old-fashioned coaching philosophy, create a constant atmosphere of fear, and make the players so angry they will run through walls to prove you are wrong about them. At the same time, Keenan's all-out attacking style on the ice transformed the Rangers into an exciting unit that was ready to withstand the demands of a 2-month playoff marathon. So,
I don't think that he captures the essence of the coaching philosophy completely. It wasn't to develop fear or anger. It was to keep them engaged. I use that word again. To be particularly unpredictable was a little bit of my style, or a lot of my style, but that kept them really proactive in what they had to think about and in their preparation, both prior to a contest or a game and during the game. I was very skilled at bench management, and I could identify, like, we're all humans, and you're going to play 82 games or 80 games. You're not going to be at your best every night. That's just a fact. So I could identify quickly which players were at their best that night. And the other part that I use, I don't even know if I discussed this in the book, but I would wait to the last possible second before I called out who was going to be up. So as a result, it wasn't like one line sliding down and the next line sliding down the bench and then we're up. They never knew who was going to be up. I could be double shifting a person, but that kept them on the edge of their seat. That kept them completely focused on the game. A lot of coaches who don't do that or rotate in a sort of a continuous manner, the players they drift a bit, and they're not thinking about what's going on or what's happening. So I deliberately made them stay focused and stay in the game every second of the game, and that challenged their concentration levels. But over time, you get educated, and that's part of your preparation.
You talk about focus. There is the topic of super focus in the book. Had you spoken about this idea of super focus and how you seem to get to another level in the way you're envisioning what's going to happen during the game from the start to the end, from the TV timeouts and so on?
I haven't discussed it until this book, and I guess probably maybe the most incredible comment that was made by a player was Wayne Gretzky, and we were playing and one of the reporters asked him after the game, are you going to watch the video? And he says, I don't have to watch the video. You could ask Wayne today, he'd probably give you every shift he ever played in the National Hockey League. That's how his mind was geared.
Right.
And the compliment was, there's only one other person that I know of that can do this as well, and that's Mike Keenan. So I had a skill like that as well, and I could memorize it, and I think I might have said it in the book or not, but at the time on ice, for example, after the game, I could tell the numbers that everyone played on both teams after a game within 30 seconds. Yes. So it's sort of a mathematical approach, but it was something I was able to calculate and retain in my mind throughout a game.
So this super focus, when it comes up first in the book, it's you and Peterborough lying on the wooden floor and kind of thinking about breaking down everything with this music playing in the background. I want to know, is this something you had from, because the book starts off as it should with your life growing up in Whitby. Like, was this something at like when's the first time you kind of processed this super focus?
Well, as a young player, I started playing when I was 7 years old. And I was one of the better players in the community. In fact, I don't know if I put this in the book or not, but I told a fib about my age because I wasn't old enough to play.
Right.
So, and also in Whitby. So we were living in Whitby, and I was 7. You couldn't play till you were 9. But so my dad's brother lived in Oshawa.
Yeah.
So they put down that I was living with my dad's brother, my uncle, in Oshawa, and they fibbed about my age so I could start playing when I was 7. Right. I was actually a little bit less than that, and I was maybe one of the best players in the league at that age. So that kind of focus and paying attention to details started when I was 6, 7 years old. So I mean, I grew into it more and more, and was able to hone it a lot more as I got older. But coaching sports and then playing hockey, and then as Gretzky, that I could memorize the shifts and when I was playing and what I was going to do or who I was going to play against or things of that nature. So it started early, but then when I started coaching, it really came to the surface.
Right. And in terms of your
to a fact where I'll tell a little story. I don't think I told it in the book. And my sister come to visit me in Chicago, and a couple of things happened there. But I got off a plane and I got home and my sister was there, and she opened the door. It was in the middle of winter in Chicago. She said, "Mike, where's your coat? Where's your shoes?" I said, "Oh God, I forgot them. I left them on the plane." I walked off the plane, didn't have my coat on, didn't have my shoes on, and show up. So that's how mentally I was geared. That's just one example. There was one example. I was in Calgary. We were flying to Los Angeles. I got to Los Angeles. I said, "Oh my God!" Joe Cadillac, who's our team services Philly, said, "Joe, I forgot all my clothes. I don't have any clothes." So preoccupation of what I was doing was always in the front of my mind.
Yeah, super focus, as you call it, and I mean, we go back to your time at Forest Hill Collegiate and just what you've squeezed into a day. I think I might be mixing up a couple of things here, but did you not drive from there to maybe U of T and then jog 5 miles, and you're basically doing everything, basically having a 20-hour day?
Yeah, I was. I look back at it. I was coaching senior A and at the same time coaching the high school team. I became the commissioner so I could rearrange the schedule. So I could have practice time, which was always in the morning at 7 a.m. With the high school team, and then schedule it so it wouldn't conflict with my own schedule. And then I did that coaching junior B as well. I was coaching the high school team and the junior B team. So it was long days, but it was exciting. I didn't consider it to be work, and I didn't consider it to be long days. It was just something that I enjoyed and took charge and coached 2 teams at once.
Have you ever considered it work? Just up until your time in Italy, have you ever considered it work?
Not really. Again, I go back, and it was tough on relationships because I would go in Chicago, I became the manager and the coach. So my day would begin very early. I had a rule that I had to be sleeping by 2 a.m., but I'd get up at 6.
Yeah.
So I'd go in and start prepping for the coaching job and the practices. And as an example, then after the practices were done, I'd go to the front of the building and sit in the GM's chair and do that work. So there were long days, and then that was a day that we didn't play. And the days that we did play, that was early beginning, and then I could never go to sleep after a game until 2:00 because of the adrenaline and what you put in terms of. And then, of course, when you're on the road, you get on a jet and you're flying. I can remember looking out of the jet windows many times saying, "That's funny. Everybody in North America is sleeping except us." So
did you find that, I mean, especially when you came in '84, and there's that great story about being interviewed by the Flyers, and they have a 28-page questionnaire from Wharton Business School, and then you go off to the beach and write a 19-page essay back. I mean, I don't think what you're describing now is too uncommon for most coaches. I think they have to work that long. Back then, 1984, 21 teams in the league. How many coaches are doing what you're doing?
Not many. I credit my mentors, Tom Watt in particularly. He said that I've never seen anyone work so hard. And he was a super coach. And then Scotty Bowman used to wake me up in the middle of the night, question me about what we were doing in Rochester. And I had a lot of conversations with Roger Nielsen about the technical part of the game. So those individuals impacted my development more than others. I had some great assistant coaches along the way. You don't do it without great help and support. So it was interesting.
So you do think that what you may have been possibly ahead of your time in some ways in terms of the preparation?
Well, I would think that I was, yes. I can tell you that players have said that now, that the things that we introduced. And, I had a great owner. He was a challenging individual, but a great owner in Eddie Snyder. And he was part of the football scene. He was part owner of the Eagles. And he liked the idea of a composition of coaches, not just a head coach. And at the time, he was the first one to have an assistant coach with Fred Sherrill. Mike, I forget Mike's last name right now, but Nicolak, I think it was. And then we expanded. So I had 2 assistant coaches, video coach, strength and conditioning coach, skills coach, mental skills coach, physiology. So we had we were way, way, way ahead of the rest of the league when it came to building a coaching team.
Is that what allowed a team? You look back and those Flyers teams, really strong teams. Is that what allowed a team like that to get so close to knocking off an Edmonton?
I think it was. We had the youngest team in pro sport, not just hockey. So we had a captive audience that were very enthusiastic, very coachable, and our coaching staff were able to, I think, bring out the best in all the players. And we go to games 7 and 87, and our top goal scorer is not playing, Timmy Kerr, a goal a game. Right. Who knows how it would have turned out, but and I talked to them. They can't believe it went 7 games. They shouldn't. They said you had no business. I had 1 Hall of Famer. They had 7, and we went 7 games. Mark Howe was the only Hall of Famer we had in Philly so far, and they've had 7 Hall of Famers. So I had a couple occasions recently to be with Glenn Sather, and we talked about that. So not only is Hall of Famers, he had the best players ever in the world. So it was interesting.
Let's go back, and you're not shy about answering tough questions. I'm not going to say this is a tough question, but I mean, your coaching style, especially, the mental aspect of it with some of the players, some of the decisions you made were, I mean, I don't know if that could happen now. And you do describe, you say, hey, listen, it was a different time. I believe you say that, some of the things it's, we're in 2024, not 1984. I'm paraphrasing, right? So actually, I'm reading it right now. I believed in my principles, but with the benefit of hindsight, I might have adjusted my methodology. Having said that, though, looking through a 2024 lens reveals that this is a much different world than it was early in my coaching career. Is there anything you would have not done? Yeah,
there are many things I wouldn't have done, but at the same time, people ask me and continue to ask me, have you changed? Well, of course I've changed. I coached in 5 decades and won in all decades.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't make the adaptation to the players' mentality and their skill set and their ability and their expectations, then you're out. And the belief, I think, surfaced in the NHL, where I was out in 2009. I probably could have coached another 10 years, but they didn't think, whoever the powers to be were hiring people, didn't consider me. They were either afraid of me, that I'd be too aggressive or too controversial, or the players wouldn't respond. But I go to Russia in 2013 and we win our first year. I have to learn to speak enough Russian to communicate with them, besides coaching and playing on an Olympic ice surface, which is a whole different game than playing on the 200 NHL by 85. You're now on a 200 by 100. Mm-hmm. So the adaptation of a different culture, a language barrier, a different size ice surface, all came into play, and we still found a way to be successful and to win the championship. So, there's a few things I'd take back. I was so intense and at my own fault, probably too intense at times. I should have taken a broader view without the immediacy of winning every shift. And that I could have improved upon for sure. But the other part of it is that we did win. So it wasn't always comfortable. And I don't know if it should be comfortable. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Winning is not easy. It takes exceptional behavior and dedication. And to make a difference, you have to have an edge of some kind. Start with talent and the ability of the players. But even at that, how do you separate yourself from the rest of the league? And that's the question I'm sure every coach is asking themselves today.
When you are going to different events, you're going to come to Toronto. I know on October 10th, you got a book launch at Noonan's here. You're going to run into friends, and you're probably also going to, maybe if you're at a Hall of Fame night or whatever, going to run into players that you may have had troubles with in the past or troubles with you. Now that you see some of these players many years later, are there people that don't talk to you? Are there people that do and see things in a new way? How does that experience play out?
I haven't had anyone that didn't want to talk to me. So years later, and I've had many say, I understand now what was going on. I didn't when I was young. It's maturity. And then some obviously went on to coaching and managing, and now they're walking in my shoes.
Yeah.
And it's completely different than walking in a player's shoes. But, there's players that excelled and players that didn't do well. But the easiest players to coach were the best because they just wanted ice time. And I was a coach that always played the best players the most. And they responded. That's what they wanted, and they thrived on it. They wanted to win. A lot of them were happy that I was putting, I guess the word I'll put it as pressure on others, because then they didn't have to do it. They didn't have to challenge their teammate because the coach was doing it for them. So they liked that.
What in your mind? What's define mental toughness to me?
Well, I think there's a lot of components to mental toughness. It's the discipline to prepare yourself physically, emotionally, mentally, to have the concentration levels, to have the ability to get away from all distractions, because we are public. There's a lot of opportunity to be distracted by media, by fans, by others, by teammates, by coaches. whatever the case might be, to have the mental toughness or skill or focus on a shift-to-shift basis, on a game-to-game basis. On the hockey is so dynamic; anything could happen at any time, and it's those that are completely focused throughout the game and that have the skill set to go along with it are the better players. And you look at the best players in the league; they have a really high level of focus and mental toughness, not to be, I guess, moved or distracted from their game. They can play their game regardless of what's going on.
From a coaching perspective, I guess in general too, leadership, just how do you define leadership?
I think leadership comes again in many different ways, some by example, some by your demeanor, some by your intellect, some by your charisma. So I think there's a lot of different aspects to it. And the respect that others have for you is a big part of it as well, that you demonstrate a level of competency and you're able to do as you say you're going to do, and others see it. So they're willing. Not all of us are leaders, and some don't want to lead. It's a big responsibility. So they will follow those that are capable of leading.
I got to ask you, and I'm jumping around a bit. Was there? I talked to Gary Green yesterday, who I used to work with at the NHL Network, and you have a close relationship with
I do, yes.
And I asked him, because this was kind of in my head. I said, is there ever a point where you think you changed? Like, was there ever a point where you bought into being Iron Mike? And for me, I'm again just coming out of New York with that cup and going into St. Louis. Did you ever think there was a point where you became Iron Mike, the celebrity?
No, but it was really apparent when I was in Philadelphia because Joe Cadillac was our head of team services for many years. He was in Philly. And he came to me one day, he said, "Your name now is Jack Grant." I said, "What?" He said, "Because the media would call me in the middle of the night. I couldn't get any sleep." So he registered me and he said, "You tell your family members that you're going to be registered as Jack Grant so nobody can find you." And that happened early in my career. Now, I won't tell you who Wayne Gretzky was, but Wayne Gretzky was not Wayne Gretzky.
Right.
So I do know who he was, but
you don't know. We won't know his alias. Well, what I mean is, I guess there's no point where you felt like you were. I think anyone who gets to a certain point in notoriety kind of feels it, do they not? And did you feel that there was a point where you were becoming a celebrity coach, perhaps, especially on that St. Louis team when you had Gretzky and you had Hull and all those guys?
I think it came before that.
No, okay,
for sure. And part of the reason I'm in Key West, part of the reason I came here is because it's a community where nobody cares. And a lot of people knew who I was and do, but it's a community where you can be sitting beside a billionaire or sitting beside a homeless guy or whatever, pardon that phrase.
Right.
And nobody really cares. So it's not a distraction. It could be a distraction, or it could cut into your personal life if you don't protect it. And that is something you have to deal with. I mean, again, the great players that I played for me, I always had to deal with that much more than I did.
Right.
Sure. So that's part of what they got accustomed to.
Yeah, I'm guessing I'm trying to prod into the idea of yourself believing your own hype type of thing. But Gary told me that never happened for you. So I'm going to take that.
You don't believe your own con. So, some guys do, but
right.
I never did.
So I know we don't have too much time left. So I'll just a couple of things. First of all, how did Gary's wife, Sharon, kind of help you go from a player to a coach? Did you ever pick her brain about doing that?
Not really. She had the inside view of Gary's ability and which was exceptional and a completely different style than mine. But women that are around hockey coaches, be our wives or those that know us, have a view and they're perceptive and they can understand what's going on most of the time, but not all the time.
So, in terms of back to your the way you're framing things and thinking about hockey all the time, and you're on your dock at your cottage at Georgian Bay, and you're thinking 1987, you're heading in, you've just finished the Cup final, and you're thinking you've got the two best players in the world on your team, and you're thinking, when am I going to place them together at the key moment? Just run through that with our listeners.
Yeah, I had obviously many Hall of Famers and great players, but I had a couple of exceptional talents in Gretzky and Lemieux. And I was thinking that we're going to play, most likely going to play the best opponent in the world, the Soviet Union, who had been together for 11 months. We'd been together for about 11 weeks, not even that. So I was thinking and sitting there and coming up with the idea that I've got to play them together, but not too soon, not too early in the tournament, because I don't want them to pre-scout. I don't want our opponent to know, again, being unpredictable. And I didn't tell the players, I didn't tell the coaches, I didn't tell anyone that I was going to do that until I did. And then they fed off each other. And of course, the dynamics of the team, we were able to, in the final game, overcome a major deficit early by changing the approach to the game, putting out grinders, and then I call it the superstars finish it off for the victory. So that was just something, again, I always had a skill set to be thinking of different creative aspects. I think it's the art and science of coaching, and I had the skill set on both sides, the art part of it and the math science of it. So that's how that came about.
And I believe it was game 2 when you finally put them together, was it not?
I put them together occasionally before that, yes.
Okay, all right. Here is a quote from Larry Robinson's book, which he did roughly 10 years ago, maybe more, called The Great Defender. It's Lou Lamoriello describing Larry Robinson, but I want to put this to you and see what you think. So Lou Lamoriello said this about Larry Robinson: when you're not only respected but liked, that is a very unique situation. And then he says Larry has both. But the idea of being respected and liked, and how hard it is to be both.
That's a great comment. I know Larry and I know Lou. And I think that the number one part of it is to be respected. You don't have to be liked to get your job done. But I do know that many players did like me, although I was challenging and difficult with them at times, but they did like it, and they liked me. Some of them said that I was their favorite coach. And, players like to win. And when you win, it's very fulfilling, because it's so difficult to win. as you go up the ladder in terms of competition. And ultimately, they become reflective after and say, yeah, we needed him to win. So that's, I guess, the best way I can answer that question.
Can we close with a quick word association? I'll give you a name, something, a subject, and you can tell me what comes to mind.
Okay.
All right. So,
This is an interesting exercise.
Yeah. I mean, interesting. Is that your way of saying, I don't want to do this? Or
No. I don't mind.
Okay. General Motors.
My family's employment.
And you can be as long or short as you want.
A great history there. My grandfather, 50 plus years. My two uncles over 35 years. My dad over 30 years. My sister, my aunt over 5 years. All in the same family. I worked there in a summer job one summer. And I was offered, I don't know if I put this in the book, I was offered a great job when I graduated from university. And that was to represent the company across Canada to sell that product to the dealers. And I turned it down. They gave me a bundle of money, or we're going to. And I said, no, I'm not going to. I'm leaving. I'm not going to follow my family's footsteps. And I started teaching for 9,000 Canadian dollars. And, I was being offered 50,000 by General Motors at the time. So
that's not the first time in the book where you took a risk on yourself and took I would say not even a lateral step, but maybe a step that people might have thought was crazy. I think Scotty Bowman said you were crazy for leaving, right?
Yes.
So interesting in a lesson in betting on yourself for the long-term gain. Okay. The Great Gatsby.
Interesting book, fun book to read. I enjoyed reading it.
Peter Zezel.
Oh, God bless him. People would know this, but Peter played the most games for me than any hockey player in my history of coaching.
Brett Hull.
A very, very bright individual, a real talent, a challenge to coach. As he said, I didn't want anybody to coach me. So, but a real likable guy. When you're around him, he's very bright.
All right, second last one. What was louder, the night the Spectrum shook, or the anthem at the 1991 NHL All-Star Game?
They're probably about the same, and you could put a third one in there when we won the Cup. Madison Square Gardens, the roof. I thought the roof was going to be blown off. So, the Desert Storm national anthem, All-Star Game in Chicago, unreal, and the Spectrum, all really unique situations that brought out a lot of emotion from the participants, everyone in the building. So it was an incredible experience to be part of all that.
I do feel like, in a sense, we've lost a lot with the standardization and the, commercialization of the in-arena experience. I feel like sometimes the fans actually just doing what they do is the in-arena experience. And we miss that, for those of us that watch that. You lived it. Some of us watched it on TV as kids, but it's not really the same anymore, is it?
No, and I coached. I was real blessed to coach in some unique buildings like Boston Garden, Chicago Blackhawks, the Spectrum, coaching against St. Louis in the old St. Louis building. I mean, I could go on and on. And the old building in Vancouver, Toronto Maple Leaf Gardens, the Forum, Montreal. So without getting into naming them all, it was... The original six were all unique, for sure.
The last thing I'm going to ask you before I let you go on with your day. There was a movie that came out about roughly, I'm going to say, again, 10 years ago. That's my standard time I'm giving here, but it was a movie about enforcers in hockey. It was called Ice Guardians, and I'm going somewhere with this. One of your former players, a number of your former players are in it. Brett Hull was in it, and Kelly Chase is in it. And they ask him the question I'm about to ask you, and they said, if you could do it all again, how would you do it? And his answer is exactly the same, except with more fire. If you could do it all again, how would you do it?
That's a great question. And I would do it with less fire. So I could do it and get the same results with a little bit less fire. I had the temperature up quite often.
Well, you know what? Thank you very much for engaging with us today. And I'll see you on October 10th. And I wish you luck. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of the same questions and a lot of different ones in your book tour. And I'm sure it'll do very well in a number of markets here and as well as in the States where you coach: Philly, Chicago, St. Louis, New York. I mean, if you're going to sell a book, that's where you want to do it.
Florida, Boston.
Florida, Boston too. So, yeah. So there'll be some books sold. So congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All the best.